What's up, everyone? Dr. Todd and Trainer Tony here in the house, the MoveNow Chiropractor. This is amazing. This is incredible. If you know who Trainer Tony is, you're going to be pretty excited. You're probably standing up right now. All right. If you don't know who Trainer Tony is, well, I feel bad for you, but there's hope because you can listen to this podcast. You can find out who he is. So join us on episode 281 of the MoveNow Chiropractor. Let's get rolling. Here's what so many chiropractors have been searching for. How can we expand our clinical reach by finally addressing more than just the segmental component with our patients, but at the same time, not feel like we are selling out our chiropractic principles? The reality is our patients count on us to guide them. And when it comes to results, we must also address their posture and their movement. The verdict is out. Patients have spoken, and this is what they want and what they need, focusing on functional movement and corrective exercise. So how do we practice in a way where our community is engaged, excited, and seeking us out because of this comprehensive, results-based approach? That's the goal we've all been searching for, and this podcast will show you how. My name is Dr. Todd Pickman, and welcome to the MoveNow Chiropractor. So first off, that's your first time hearing that intro. What do you think of that intro?
I like it.
All right, nice. Tony's a man of few words. So I did a Facebook Live right before Trainer Tony pulled up. Some of you might have seen that, and that's why you're watching this podcast, or you're watching this watching the podcast on YouTube and seeing us here, listening to it on one of the different platforms. But Trainer Tony has been MIA for a while. He hasn't heard our intro to the podcast. I don't even know if he's ever even listened to one of our podcast episodes. We're on episode 281. Have you ever heard a single episode?
No,
never.
When did the podcast start?
I think we started it when you were at the clinic.
Okay.
I mean, have you been on a podcast before?
I don't think so. I mean, we created a lot of content, but I don't know if we did a podcast.
Yeah. I don't even know if we have. All right. Well, where to go with this podcast where we have TT on here? Let's first off explain a little bit about who Trainer Tony is, how we met, because it's just a fun story. If you followed us for any amount of time and are seeing how we've gotten into the functional movement stuff, Trainer Tony came along at the right time. We were looking for someone in our exercise department. We were just starting to build things out. He showed up and you responded to an interview. I met you in person, right?
Yeah.
And did you talk to my dad first?
Yeah. Your dad interviewed me, did sort of a screening, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah.
And it was funny because like some of the stuff he asked me was a little unexpected, but made sense once I met you. And there's a lot that and I think it's grown, so much since when I started there. There's just so much to the exercise department. You have to have. I think it would be hard for someone who, because one of the questions your dad asked me is if I work out, if I do exercise.
Yeah.
And it made sense because I'm like, I don't know if it would be like hiring a personal trainer that didn't work out, or didn't understand the value of it. But it was funny because I saw the job posting, and I was at that point, I'd been a personal trainer for about 15 years and wanted to start getting into healthcare just for something different, some new opportunities. And I was like, well, I need to get some experience. I got to, learn what's out there. And I was looking for some kind of like assistant, medical assistant or something. And this exercise therapist job popped up. And at that point I knew zero about chiropractic care. Like I came in knowing nothing and didn't know what to expect. So I came in and, Dr. Todd was showing me around and the kettlebells and stuff. And I played my cards kind of close to my chest a little bit. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And it took us some...
You're like kettlebell? What's that?
I mean, and then, as we decided to work together, and as time went on, I think we kind of discovered that I don't know. I think the timing was kind of eerily good timing. That it was one of those relationships where I felt like we were just like the way we think about things. Like I remember one time, many of the conversations we had where I was talking about yoga or something, and I was like, yeah, I really like Iyengar yoga because it's so detail oriented. And you were like, yeah, that's the only kind of yoga I do. Stuff like that. And then the kettlebells and our approach to wellness matched up really, really well. That I think was the start of creating all that cool stuff.
It was. And so Trainer Tony showed up, and I remember he shows up, and I'm thinking, this guy might be a little overqualified for the position I'm looking for, because he showed up, he was wearing like a suit jacket,
Yeah.
right? And then jeans or something, right?
Yeah.
Like playing it cool. And I'm like, man, this guy's like styling for this interview, right? And we walked around, and then we sat down. I think we sat down probably in the consultation room and had a conversation, and then realized how we had so many things just from the get-go that were on the same page, and it looked good. And I don't remember if I offered you the job right then and there. I probably did. Did I?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, come work for us, please.
I think you're like, I think it was, I remember because we went on a weekend. It might have been a Saturday, and we were like, can you start Monday?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
And then did you, or
I think I had to give my notice at my current job, and so it was 2 weeks.
Because before you were working doing security truck stuff.
Yeah, I was working in the security industry.
Yes.
Which was still a great job, but this was, like I said, I wanted some experience doing something related to healthcare.
So like basically, if you ever seen the movie Heat with Val Kilmer, Al Pacino, and Robert De Niro, that's what Tony was doing. He was working the armored trucks.
Yeah.
He wasn't on the criminal side of it, though.
No.
He was on the other side.
That's a good movie.
It's
Henry Rollins is in that movie.
Henry Rollins is in that movie, the part where the truck's jumping like crazy. I think Henry Rollins gets shot in that movie.
I think, well, I know that, what's his name, beats him up, but...
Who beats him up?
The main guy.
Al Pacino?
Pacino, yeah.
Yeah, which there's no way Al Pacino would beat up Henry Rollins.
Oh, but, it's movies.
Yeah, Henry Rollins would totally kick his butt. All right, well, okay, so then Tony starts working at the clinic. We were building out the exercise department. We had a little bit of a foundation. We had a lot that we wanted to develop. And that's where, I mean, pretty much every second I had that I wasn't with patients, I'd be out there with TT. That's what we call him, TT, Trainer Tony. And just talking, hey, let's do this. Let's do this. How about this system? How about this system? And just building stuff out. And the cool thing is we realized that Trainer Tony has a artistic side of his expertise. So he helped develop a lot of the graphics and whatnot. And we actually used this program that was never designed to do this. It's a flowchart program called Lucid Charts.
That's right, yeah.
And we use that to build manuals and build various posters and whatnot. Yeah. And so a lot of those graphics that you're familiar with, that's what Trainer Tony put together. And what you're probably seeing is like the 20th revision of each one, because we've modified it and evolved it. And so it started in 2016 as far as where we decided to start MoveNow University. And I'm going to quiz Trainer Tony right now to see if he remembers. Do you remember why we started it originally? Like what the angle was originally?
MoveNow University. I'm trying to remember if that was before or after the 12-week transformation.
It was after the 12-week transformation.
That's what I thought. I thought because that's a way to increase engagement for the patients. And then my memory was that we were like, well, we should, everyone should know about this stuff.
But prior to that, I will help refresh your memory.
Yeah.
Initially, it was our plan to get into gyms.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
And it was to teach personal trainers this stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Which is why, if some of you are part of the program listening to this and you remember that we still have some of the old videos in there because they're oldies but goodies, we didn't want to refilm it. We wanted to keep that little archive touch to it. Some of the language and the verbiage was talking about with your client.
Yeah.
We're talking to a trainer about their client, and people have asked, like, it sounds like you're talking to a personal trainer. That's how we started it. And then we realized pretty quickly after that, the stuff that the personal trainers don't know, chiropractors certainly don't know, and they need to know it more so than anyone else.
Yeah.
And so then we pivoted. We didn't want to refilm everything because it was good content. And then we just made more stuff. And so what we did, we built out this program. It was pretty basic when it started. We just kept building and building and building onto it, and we put it together, and it was a membership site. So for those of you wondering what the heck this is and you haven't heard of it before, if you go to demo.movenowu, like the letter U, like for university.com, so demo.movenowu.com, you can watch a 30-minute pre-recorded demo where I go and show you what the whole membership site looks like, and I go through a lot of the content. So that's the behind-the-scenes demo video, so check that out. If you're curious about seeing what this is, you can go to movenowu.com and check out our website. We have a store where doctors order products that they provide for their patients. So there's like a doctor login. We have our podcasts on the store. On the site. We have videos of impact events, which Tony was involved in, the first probably 4 or 5 impact events before you moved, right? And so anyway, so we built this thing out. I did a webinar May 18th, 2016. I'll remember that because it was my wife's birthday and my dog Dorian's birthday. Okay. Most importantly, my wife's birthday, right? If you're listening to this, Linda, which I know you don't, love you. Okay. And then, so we did a webinar. People started getting, exposed to this. We had some members join, and we built more and more content. And then Trainer Tony and I decided, I think one of our next big projects was, if you remember, and I'll just drop the little hints and see if you remember. I'm going to test your memory. We came in on 2 weekends, and we had a project that we did. It was video. I built a whole portal for it. It was intended to be like a free portal for people to learn stuff. And it ended up, this is the most obvious hint, it ended up turning into a book. Just so you know, it's not broken. He's pausing right now.
Can I phone a friend?
You really don't remember?
Phone a friend. I'll remember once you say it.
MoveNow Secrets.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's right. MoveNow Secrets.
Right. So MoveNow Secrets started where Trainer Tony and I sat down. We figured out an outline of stuff to talk about. And so we had this whole outline of just conversation, kind of like we're doing this podcast right now, conversation, but it was very structured on topics of functional movement. And then we sat behind a table, and we had all of our resources ready to go. And this is where we recorded everything on iPhones, which there's a funny story that we'll have to talk about that Trainer Tony brought up last week. And I was cracking up, and it was funny because it brought back some good memories of when you, me, and Anabolic Andrew were filming, and we didn't have an audio source. Let's come back to that. It's funny. And anyway, we sat down, we filmed out MoveNow Secrets, edited this stuff, put the videos together. I believe that's movewellsecrets.com is how you get to it. I think that's still active. I'll look it up and make sure. You can look in the show notes and stuff and whatever below, and I'll have that link. But check that out, because that was a free site that we built, and there's some cool stuff in it. You'll see what I'm talking about. And then that turned into essentially almost transcribing our conversations. And then I had to edit it and make it in book format. And I wrote a book called MoveNow Secrets. And we had a couple thousand copies of the book that went out there to chiropractors all over the world. I got pictures of chiropractors in China that were eating breakfast in China with a picture of their MoveNow Secrets book cracked open while they were eating their dim sum or whatever.
Very cool.
Okay. Anyway, so it was cool, and we kept making stuff. Belt system of functional movement was a big one. Where, how would you describe the belt system for those who never heard of this?
Well, how I'm remembering it is we wanted to think about an idea of progression. And, because when I first got there, I think there was just groups of exercises based on whatever issues the patients were dealing with. And then I think there was just some conversation of like, okay, well, how can we progress someone, especially someone who's really engaged,
right,
through this and advance them to new things. And I think that's kind of the genesis of it.
It was that, and there was a little motivation on my end. I'd come back from training with Czar Horton out in Albuquerque at his kettlebell studio called Fire Bells, and he had a belt system.
Oh.
And so he had this belt system where I think it was wristbands. I don't know if he did I think he did wristbands, but it was different colors, and they progressed up through this, and then they could attend different classes when they had a higher belt. Or band, and they had to wear it so that the instructors would automatically know what someone's skill level was.
Yeah.
Right. And so I thought that's ingenious. It's competitive. It's motivational. Someone can compete with themselves to say, oh, I started a white belt. I want to get to a yellow belt. I want to get to a blue belt.
Yeah.
So we built out this belt system, and we categorized the exercises based on complexity. And so like white belt is just like the martial arts, and TT and myself have a history of some martial arts stuff. Maybe you more so than me, maybe. And the white belt was not anything to brush off. It's the foundation for everything.
Yeah.
Right. So it took the longest to get out of white belt, but you had to show that you understood the basics before you were trusted to do something more complex.
Yeah.
Right. And how we did it, we had 8 different dysfunctions. So D1 to D8. D1 is cervical. Should I quiz you and see if you remember all the dysfunctions?
Gosh, no.
No, it's been a while. So let's see how quickly I can go through. So D1 is cervical, D2 thoracic, D3 shoulder, D4 scapular, D5 is core, D6 posterior chain, D7 hip, D8
Ankle.
it was ankle at one point, but we went back and forth at squat.
Okay.
Yeah. It was an ankle one. We kind of went back and forth on that, but we decided to make it squat. So that's the D1 through D8 dysfunctional list of protocols. So a progressive list of exercises that someone can move up, and you can challenge any person from the 80-year-old grandma that's never exercised a day in her life to the elite athlete that comes in thinking that they know everything. You can fit something in that will engage any of them along the way, which is so cool. Because you can take an elite athlete, like for example, we have an athlete right now that's a competitive strong woman competitor. You met her at the gym, remember?
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, right? I think you met Carly, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did. So TT and I were working out at the Mecca, and Carly was finishing up, and she's a beast, very
strong,
very competitive. And to her credit, still looks like a woman. Good job, Carly.
Yeah.
So like she can be strong, have muscle, and still look feminine. So you don't have to, actually become a man. And she's been a patient of ours, and we've taken care of her leading up to lots of competitions and whatnot. But she's the only female in our clinic that has a black belt. So she came in and got her black belt in our belt system, and she was determined when she came in. She's like, I'm gonna get the black belt, and she understands double lacrosse ball and foam roller and all these mobility techniques.
Yeah.
But it was teaching her our system. She learned new stuff, and she even told us she took a lot of the things that we taught her in like the sequence 1, 2, and 3 stuff, and she put that into her warm up.
Yeah.
And so sequence 1 is cervical, 2 is like mid back thoracic, and sequence 3 is lumbopelvic, pelvic hip area. And it's warm up protocols. It's these just repetitive 8 to 12 minute warm up protocols that patients do before they get moving. And I do a lot of those things before I warm up in the morning. I've been working out with TT for the last couple of weeks now while he's here in town. And he and I have our own things that we work on, a lot of crossover, because it's working on the stuff that we feel we need to warm up before we start getting into our exercise routine.
Yeah.
And so,
well, I felt like that was kind of the hope with the belt system, and the secret of it really was, if you were serious about getting to the black belt level, you were going to have to take this stuff and adopt it into your life, and not just do it, a couple days a week at the clinic, but probably every day. In fact, Dr. Todd and I were talking the other day, because I have issues with thoracic mobility, and we were chatting, and I realized there's certain mobility protocols I need to be doing really twice a day. And you get all these tools, and you just kind of bring them into your life and figure out what works for you, and really run with it.
yeah. And for those of you watching this, by the way, I'm 41 years old, days away from being 42. I know I look like I'm like 28. I get it, especially with my gray beard. I mean, it's hard to think I don't look like I'm 60 right now. But TT over here, no one believes his age. He's 72. No, I'm just joking. He's not 72. 51.
51. Yeah.
51 years old. And Linda, my wife, was surprised when I told her that the other day. She's like, man, he's in really great shape. He looks really good. And then Grayson, our little 6-year-old, Grayson's like, Trainer Tony looks great. He's really healthy. And he just started like going off about how healthy you are. And TT's always done some level of fitness. It's gone up and down throughout your course of careers and whatnot. But I mean, it's always been a big part of your life.
Yeah, for sure. Although I think the gold medal for ageless health has to go to Czar.
Yeah.
How old is he now?
Czar he's got to be 54 maybe.
Yeah, that guy, I mean, just his strength, fitness levels, just his appearance, and like overall, you can look at somebody, just how they move and how they act, and like that guy I really look up to him a lot. It's awesome.
Well, in part of that, he's got some youthful genetics as well, for sure. So he's got that on his side. Yeah. But yeah, Czar Horton from Strong First. You should check that. I'm wearing my Strong First shirt in honor of this podcast. Just got some like glue stuck on there because I wore this while I was doing some construction stuff. Anyway, Czar Horton, if you go to strongfirst.com, you can see him on the site. He's one of the master kettlebell instructors, which is the highest level that you can get to under Pavel, which is the founder. So he is the highest. So Czar is legit. And I've talked about this in the past. I've had Czar on our early episodes. I think like the first 10, like within the first 10 or 20 episodes I did a couple podcasts with Czar, where I sat down with him and had a conversation like this, not nearly as, sophisticated and high tech with the equipment. We did it like on a old iPhone in his gym.
Yeah.
But Czar early on, I've known him for a long time because he was the strength and conditioning coach for Jackson's Mixed Martial Arts. I was the team chiropractor out in Albuquerque. He and I would travel together with Keith Jardine, which is one of the fighters, the Dean of Mean, Keith Jardine. And he and I stayed in a hotel together first time, met each other. Back then I was in my late 20s and he was in his like late 40s, I guess, or mid 40s or something. I don't know. I can't do the math right now, and yeah, we'd go work out together. I do the traditional bodybuilding workout and he'd be taking a dumbbell and doing Turkish get-ups with it because they didn't have kettlebells at the gym. And I'm thinking, what is this guy doing? Why is he doing all these weird exercises? Yeah. And he tried to get me into kettlebells. I had no interest. And then years later, when I got into functional movement, and then I realized, Gray Cook, Brett Jones, and all these functional movement people, now they talk about Pavel and Strong First. That's weird. And then I'm like, Czar is this hot shot in Strong First. I didn't know that. He was my friend. I didn't know he was such a big deal.
Yeah.
And so then I called Czar up and I was like, hey, remember the kettlebell stuff you told me about? I'd like to go through and actually get trained officially by you guys. So went to the Strong First seminars. Tony and I did a project. Let's quiz you on that. Do you remember what the project was we did on kettlebells? Again, it's not broken. It's just a long pause.
It's like you need that, what's it, the Jeopardy song? No, I remember doing it, but I don't remember what it was called.
Move well kettle bell. Move well kettlebell. Easy.
Makes sense.
Man. All right.
It seemed too obvious. It can't be that. I would have come up with something more cool than that. But
so that one, if you want to check out that, it's MW, like move well, mwkettlebell.com/swing. And if you go to that, you'll see a video of Czar doing swings, and then you can click a button, I believe it's a red button, and create an account and get free access to the first portion of Move Well Kettlebell. Great content.
Did Czar start out like in bodybuilding and that kind of stuff? And
he did.
I think it's so interesting. Maybe it's changed a little bit now, but especially back in the day, you didn't meet a lot of guys that was the first thing they did. Like, I just started training kettlebells one day. It's like a lot of people kind of get to that destination along a different path. A lot, like me and Dr. Todd both started out just doing bodybuilding stuff. And then I feel like there's always a person, like I can tell you that I can remember to this day who it was and what was happening, the person who introduced me to kettlebells. It was my manager. I worked at Equinox, New York City. And he had a budget for ordering equipment, and he was into kettlebells, and he brought them in. We were all looking at them like most people didn't even know what they were. And he started like doing all these things like snatches and Turkish get-ups and stuff, which I'd never seen anything like that at all. And there was just something about it that really like grabbed my attention. Like, that's so cool.
Well, because it's like it's a mix of strength, technique, almost like martial arts.
Yeah.
Stability. I feel like I'm gonna sneeze. Let me see if I can.
And I think there's an element of skill building, which you don't necessarily get from a biceps curl or a bench press. Nothing wrong with that stuff. I still do that stuff all the time, every week, actually. But that really, like the martial arts connection kind of pulled me in of like, that'd be cool to like learn how to do cool new stuff.
Yeah. No, and little side story was funny. So the other day, yesterday, you and I worked out. What did we do? We did chest. Yeah, we did chest. And when we're walking out of the gym, handstand lady comes up to us because we're trying to name everyone in the gym. And so I don't even think we talked about her being named handstand lady, but that was obviously her name.
Yeah.
Because she did handstands all the time.
Handstands, I think, every workout, which is great.
Yeah, and it's pretty impressive.
Shoulders,
and she's in great shape, looks super fit. She's probably in her mid 30s, late 30s maybe, or maybe a little bit older.
I think she might be one of those, people that looks younger than she is, but
Okay.
super fit.
Okay. So maybe she's in her 40s. She's approaching my age.
Yeah.
Okay. Or heaven forbid, approaching TT's age, 51. But he's like 30 at heart. So anyway, we're walking outside the gym. I thought she was going to like yell at us for something. You know, I always feel like that. I always feel like I'm like 20 years old and everyone else is way older than me and I'm getting in trouble all the time.
Yeah.
And she's like, hey guys. And then she came over and said what?
Yeah. I thought maybe we didn't re-rack our weights or something.
Yeah, right.
She said, and it took me a second, I was trying to figure out what she was alluding to, but something about she liked the way we worked out. I forget what she said, something about the movements we did or something like that. Or
Yeah, but it's an interesting, situation. You have, a very fit female coming up to two males coming out. It's usually, the other way around in the gym where guys are hounding the females and I'm like, is she hitting on us? No, but no, she just said she appreciated the way that we were working out.
Yeah.
Because she sees all the meatheads in there that maybe have bad technique or throwing weights around. And then there's really not all that much special about what we do. Like we come in, we probably spend about 15 minutes warming up.
Yeah. Well, I told Dr. Todd, I thought maybe it was
The
so
kettlebells.
this gym is a funny place because they have every possible strength training tool
And powerlifting.
you could imagine. Very heavy into powerlifting, strongman, bodybuilding stuff. But for some reason, that strikes me as strange. They only have kettlebells that go up to what, 30 pounds, I
Or
think,
like 40 maybe, or like 35.
and
most.
which is not nearly enough for me and Dr. Todd. You
No
can imagine.
way. I need like a 200-pound kettlebell.
And I don't ever see anyone. I don't know about you. I never see anyone working out with them,
Or just carrying them and doing walking lunges or something.
or curls or something
Yeah.
awful like that. But
Right.
so we'll go in though, and either part is maybe part of our warm up or our workout. We'll do, especially like for shoulder mobility and that kind of stuff. So I thought, well, maybe she saw us doing that and was like, oh, those guys know what time it is.
Right. Because and then if you remember, for fun, we were doing the thing. We were holding two kettlebells and doing presses.
That's right. Yeah.
Because they weren't heavy enough.
So
So we'd hold two kettlebells in one hand. So, which reminds me, what I need to do, and I'll talk to Eric over there. I need to bring in a pair of 24-kilogram kettlebells, which is 53 pounds for the layperson.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, because at least with double 24s, you can do quite a bit. I mean, if you're doing double kettlebell work, that gets pretty tough pretty quick.
Yeah.
Like double swings, double snatches.
Yeah. And so that was my thought, judging by her being into like handstands and the kind of things I see her do, like she was doing an ab routine the other day that was very unconventional. She was using like a Concept 2 rower as like an ab, like to do like jackknifes on. It was really cool. So I'm like, she's a aficionado of sort of more functional, not necessarily all deadlift, squat, and bench press type stuff. So
It might be time for Trainer Tony to settle down.
maybe I'm on the road now so much these days.
Maybe it was a sign. But anyway, it was cool. It's
nice.
She walked up, she appreciated that, and it was, I joked with her and I said, well, this is Trainer Tony, and I, and
Who
I,
this is?
yeah, I was like, you were talking to Trainer Tony. So anyway, it was cool. It was funny, but it was just one of those things where it's like, just know when you're working out in a gym, and this is a serious gym. It is about as serious as you get.
Yeah.
Not serious like people get mad at you or anything. Everyone's having a fun time, a good time. But serious, like people there, a lot of them are competing.
Yeah.
And they're getting ready for shows and whatnot. And it costs more than most gyms for sure. Yeah. But I like it because they have a really cool variety of equipment, and it's just like you and I were talking about the other day. It's a great atmosphere.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very rare.
Like energy, great
Yeah,
energy.
I've been to a few gyms. It's got a good energy and a certain amount of competitive energy, but without, in my opinion, being intimidating. Mm-hmm. Like you see, there's like normal folks that go in there too. They're just want to get in shape. But early on, when I was working out and getting into personal training, one of my gurus said, always work out with people that are in better shape than you, and you don't want to be the strongest guy in the room. And that's exactly what this gym is for me, is like you look around and you see people doing like some pretty amazing lifting. And I think it inspires you to work harder and push yourself a little bit in a way that maybe you wouldn't if you were the strongest guy around.
And part of it too, then from the clinical side, you watch someone squatting and you see their knee do a little valgus collapse every time. And you're like, oh man, you need to activate your glute medius and make sure you have a better arch in your foot. And because you're going to blow out your medial knee.
Yeah.
Which some of the experts in that say that a little bit of that little valgus, tip at the bottom is okay. I don't really think it's great though. I think if you can control it and not do that especially when you're going heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think sometimes people do that valgus collapse almost as like a spring to try to get them out of the bottom of the hole when they're in a squat.
Yeah.
But I can't help but think that is mechanically detrimental to the medial knee.
Yeah, I think so too. Opinions vary, but I've always been a big fan of. I just worked out with too many super strong guys that would get hurt and then be out for weeks or months. I mean, I'm sure you've seen that too.
Yeah.
And I just always thought to myself, I'm gonna really try to avoid that.
Sure. All right. Well, this is going all over the place. We're talking about a workout. So back to just switching gears, back to the clinic. So Tony worked at the clinic for several years. Were you there when we went down to the smaller space?
Yes.
You were, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happened, we had 5,300 square feet. We had about 2,000 square feet next door, built out this huge gym area, and then realized, as great as that was, the downside to it was so far away from the rest of the flow of the clinic. We had to have a full-time person just be our air traffic controller as far as guiding patients. And I mean, she was a breath of fresh air. That was I'm trying to think of the name. Remember? Always positive and smiley. I'm being very sarcastic.
There were many employees that brought that positive energy to the clinic. It's hard to remember, but I know of whom you speak.
Yeah. And so anyway, I mean,
special.
Hey, she did good at her job, but man, that rain cloud followed her. But anyway, she's not with us anymore. She's still alive. She's not at the clinic anymore. But anyway, so one day, I don't even know what the epiphany was. I think it was just trying to see if we could. Oh, I think it was because I had an ability to actually get out of the additional space and lower our overhead simultaneously with having a better flow in the clinic. So we basically gutted one of our adjusting rooms that had these 3 changing rooms that led into it, like our one adjusting room that I work out of and Dr. Zach jumps into periodically. He has a room up front as well. So anyway, we just realized that we had space that wasn't being utilized the best. So we did some major renovating and did it in record time. I have a time lapse of video. We started at Friday morning and worked all day Friday, late into the night, Saturday, Sunday, and had patients working out and doing functional movement Monday morning while we were still setting stuff up. It's pretty amazing how quick we got all that stuff done.
It was literally unbelievable. I think I remember talking with Anabolic Andrew. I was just like, there's no way we're going to have this ready by Monday. But we did.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah. It was nuts. Never underestimate the power of not sleeping.
Yeah.
So
good times.
You just work. Yeah. And so worked, painted, hung up mirrors, hung up the Stroop stuff, ran computer stuff, put up the projector screen. I mean, all that, man, there was a lot. So anyway, that's our current setup right now. And it works great. It works great for our volume and our flow and everything. And then the space next door has been then retaken up by trainer David, who David was our trainer for a couple of years on the Gonstead side and background in personal training, physical therapy assistant. And so he wanted to start his own personal training business. And he kind of started it on the clinic end first on off hours. And then he wanted to, have that entrepreneurial spirit at a young age. I think David's only 27, maybe 26 right now. So he's young. So he's done great. So he took the space over next door and turned that into a gym. And trainer Tony met with him last week or so. That was the first time you met him. He took you on a tour, showed you around.
Yeah.
Full on functional gym.
Yeah. It's a great space.
Yeah. He's got a bunch of kettlebells and
yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway, so then Tony went on his way. I know we're bouncing around a little bit here, but Tony went on his way. Surgical tech assistant? What's the title?
Yeah. The title is surgical technologist, a certified surgical technologist, but that's kind of vague. So I usually just tell people who aren't in the surgery business that I'm a surgical assistant. So basically assist surgeons in various types of surgery.
So, and then you went to Twin Falls, right?
Yeah.
And then left Twin Falls, became traveling assistant / traveling nurse, whatever they call it. Yeah. And then how many states did you go to?
Right now, I've only just gone to Minnesota.
Okay.
Because
did you go to Texas too?
No, I was thinking about Texas because I'd like to go to Texas, but they kept asking me to extend because there's so all of healthcare is short-staffed, and this place in particular is just having a real struggle getting enough people to even be able to do the surgeries they need to do. So
'Cause it's a small little town, right?
it's very small. Like I tell people, there's the image of like that little town with just one stoplight. This town has no stoplights.
Does it really have no
It
stoplights?
has a stop sign.
Wow.
And so yeah, literally about 600 people. And but people come from the little. There's various small towns in there, and they come from around to our little hospital. And it's also a great group of people. They've made me feel very welcome, and they're very appreciative. So that's always a nice environment.
That's cool. And so right now you're on your 4-week kind of forced
Little break
that you have to take, right?
Yeah.
How many more weeks do you have?
About 2.
2. Okay, got it. So 2 more weeks, and then, but on a different note too, just medicine in general, from the experience of being in the surgery rooms and stuff. There's some things you're expressing as far as just your thoughts of the medical system. If you want to share that.
Yeah. How much time do you have? It's funny sometimes when you go into something and you have certain intuition about the way things are, and maybe you're hoping to be wrong about certain things even. I think that, and it was funny, I think almost like working at the clinic with Dr. Todd got me in a certain mindset about how healthcare should be approached. And one of the main things is you have to get to the underlying issues. You can't just constantly try to attack symptoms and deal with things superficially. And that was like a lot of the stuff we built together was like drilling down and like, okay, like there's something on a functional level that's not working right. Let's fix it. And I have to tell you that what I found out in my now almost exactly 3 years in more conventional Western medicine, that's a lot of the times not what goes on. That people will come in for treatment for some problem that's come up. In my case specifically, they need a surgery, and that will be addressed, and we do a good job with that. But what I think I find frustrating is that underlying issues are not only not dealt with, but often not even addressed. Like I've asked, especially when I was in Twin Falls, we had a lot of very heavy, very overweight, morbidly obese patients. And as I got to know the doctors, I would ask them sometimes, I was like, is it part of the way you deal with patients? Do you ask them about their diet and like maybe making healthy changes and stuff? Some of the younger ones that were still new would say like, yeah, I try to have that conversation. I'm like, how often is that a successful conversation? And they would tell me, honestly, almost never. And I get like their scope of practice, they can only do so much, especially as a surgeon, but that these problems, I think, are not only not being addressed, but I think it's getting worse, was a little disheartening. I don't know what I expected, but I guess I'd wished to be part of the process of like getting people to a better state of health. And sometimes that happens. Like my favorite cases are emergency cases. Somebody breaks a bone or something like that. No problem. Get them up and moving again, get everything fixed. But in a lot of cases when there's underlying issues with bad diet, just general bad choices in lifestyle, and there's just zero conversation going on. Even when things start to break, that's the crazy thing. Even when the person requires surgery or these huge lists of prescription medications and treatments, even on the regular, like for vascular surgery, over and over again, the conversations just aren't happening. And that's a little bit of a bummer, I guess. When you want to be a part of something, you want to feel like you're part of a whole, and everyone is working together to this common goal. And I haven't yet found that. Maybe it's out there somewhere.
Well, maybe it's a future project that you and I are supposed to build and
maybe take
over the world.
Maybe. Now it's funny. I feel like there's like a bifurcation. Is that the word?
Bifurcation.
Like this split in society now, because this is the thing that, and I saw this as a trainer too, is like there's so much information. There's almost too much information out there about like healthy eating, like different types of diets that can improve your health outcomes, exercise and stretching and rehabilitation. It's like,
how do people choose? How do they know?
Free on the internet.
Yeah.
Why are people getting sicker and less healthy? But I actually think that there's a small group, I think a minority, I don't know how big, maybe it's the 80-20 rule, that is getting turned on to this stuff and trying to have a healthier lifestyle, eating better, being more aware of what they put in their body. And then there's a whole lot of other people that just, for whatever reason, I don't even know if they're even aware of it or don't care or what it is. So I think that is a small percentage of people in the U.S. that are getting, like, you know, I'm in Boise, Idaho, which isn't even a huge city, and you have as many like opportunities to go to like a yoga class or a gym or to get healthy, natural food, whatever, you know, kind of stuff you like, all over, healthy restaurants, vegetarian stuff, whatever you're into. And I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, like when we were kids, that kind of stuff was kind of rare. Like, good luck finding like a yoga studio, or like maybe there was the one hippie like vegetarian shop or whatever. But nowadays it's just everywhere. And I guess that's the positive thing, is I feel like there's this little kernel of hope in people trying to like stress the importance of this thing, and then like we do, try to like pass it on and get other people turned on to those.
It's just such a mindset change for people to, you know, to one, come to the reality check that this body has to last you the rest of this life. Like, is that not enough?
Yeah.
I mean, you want to live, yes or no? Yes. Okay, good. I mean, if you don't want to live, it's tough to even have any motivation. But if you want to live, your body has to last you the rest of your life. True or false? True. Okay. You already had some injury along the way, maybe. Okay, so how do you start to address those injuries and fix them? And then how do you make the choice of, every day that goes by, are you going to let your body get weaker or stronger? Because it doesn't really stay the same. It's either it might be like a 0.001% change either direction. You have a choice. Do you want it to get weaker or stronger? Of course you want it. You should want it to get stronger. Now you just need the roadmap of how to do that, because you got to sift through all the free stuff like you're talking about online, and it's this information overload.
Yeah.
And people inherently are lazy and they want it done for them. Yeah. Right? They want someone literally like, how do you just give me a pill and make it magically happen? And so that mindset has to change. And you hope that when someone has some sort of crisis situation in their life, that's the wake up call.
Yeah. And I have seen that on a number of occasions. I remember one of my favorite clients when I was a trainer she had her, you know, come to Jesus moment, as she called it, in a hospital room with her mom, who was sick, overweight, cancer, dying, and just realized, like, that's going to be me in about 20 years if I don't change something. She was overweight, 210 pounds or something, and we got her down to about 155, 160, I think.
Wow,
totally changed her lifestyle, got a new boyfriend. And you could, my favorite thing about it was not just her weight loss and like really getting into fitness, but you could see the change in the whole way she moved, and like she just smiled more. She was just a happier person having made those changes. And I'll never forget, her name was Lisa. And I was like, man, I wish I could just do that every day.
If you could somehow take people and show them a crystal ball of, this is where you're going to be in 10 years if you take the red pill, and here's where you're going to be if you take the blue pill. Don't take the blue pill, take the red pill. Okay. Yeah. Right. And show it to them, and they can actually see it. And then it's like, do they believe it? Yeah. Like, do they have enough belief in themselves that they could follow and go through it? You know, it's believe me, this has been the thing I've tried to figure out my almost 20 years in chiropractic practice of, we know we have this thing that can help someone so incredibly, but why does someone choose not to do it? Why does someone quit doing it? You know, and it's because we're programmed to base everything off symptoms, base everything off of pain, presence or absence of pain, right? No pain, no problem. Go back to life, right? We're busy with stuff. We don't manage our time efficiently. Yeah. Is what's, I think, the root of this. Yeah. People say, I don't have time. It's so crazy. I've just been so crazy. It's been insane. And it's like, really? Has it really been crazy? Has it really been nuts? Yeah. You know, like, you're in the middle of like an Antifa riot every day, maybe it's crazy if you're in that. But minus that, it's not crazy. It's you woke up in the morning, maybe you could have woken up earlier, right? You went to sleep too late watching YouTube videos. Turn it off. Go to sleep earlier. Like prioritize what's more important.
Yeah.
Get good, healthy sleep. Wake up earlier, eat healthier food. Oh, I can't afford it. I don't have the money. Look at what you spend your money on. You buying a $5 Frappa Lapa Frate at Starbucks, virtue signaling, you know, I don't like those companies. Sorry. All right. It's hard not to get upset when I start thinking of these, but
it's true though. And these like life coach, like self-help people will say, and I'm a big fan of journaling in all forms. They're like, start keeping a budget, write down the Frappa Lapa Lape every time you buy one. And then look at the end of the month how much money you spend on that stuff, and then ask again, do you really not have enough money? Same thing with time, like so many things. And I'm not like anti-social media or anything necessarily, but a lot of those things have a way of kind of sucking you in, and you spend a lot of time just kind of scrolling or like messing around watching YouTube videos or whatever. And you may actually have a few hours in the day that you didn't realize. And so I think keeping a journal and really keeping track of what you're doing or what you're spending your money on can be a useful tool for that.
Totally.
And
huge.
I was going to say, I think the other thing is that a lot of, unless it's something that like dramatic that happens, a lot of healthcare issues happen very, very slowly. It's like the boiling frog thing. Gaining weight is like a classic one. Most people in most circumstances don't gain a bunch of weight super fast. It's like this slow little thing. And I think those kinds of situations, it's very easy to have denial and just kind of like push it off. Oh yeah, I'll lose the weight later. I'll start eating healthy later. I'll exercise later. And until it's too late, and all of a sudden, you've gone your whole life and never invested in it at all. I think that allows people to just be in a state of denial, and they need someone or something to come along and wake them up.
Mm-hmm. And it's not easy in the sense that the system, or whatever you want to call it, is built to keep you unhealthy and fat and hooked on pharmaceuticals.
I mean, that's a whole other thing we could even get into and this was my experience in the last few years, is this system even set up for wanting people to be healthy? And it's just something I never really questioned before, that the underlying structures, you'd think, oh, everyone, who doesn't want other people to be healthy and happy? And especially, I don't know if you want to get into the Charlie 19er, but all that stuff was, I really sat back and I'm looking around at everyone and I'm like, are you guys not at all questioning that maybe these people don't have our best interest in mind? Like,
when Charlie 19 first came out, I thought for sure this was going to be people's wake-up call to get healthier. I was like, man, people are going to see that, okay, you have this thing that's challenging you, and Americans are not really a healthy, developed country to begin with, not a healthy people to begin with. It's one of the unhealthiest developed nations in the world, if not the most, as far as obesity and heart disease and cancer and all these things, which are lifestyle, metabolic, food and exercise and just self-care related diseases. The vast majority, you want to blame it on genetics, there's a thing called epigenetics, which is the expression of genes. You have more control than you think. You're not doomed just because you have a bad gene. Okay, so like this stuff's been talked about, yet the media, the social media, the government, all of this, the pharmaceutical companies being hand in hand with the government, there's so much money to be made in people being sick. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not this far-fetched idea. It's the reality of how not just this country works, how the world works. Pharmaceutical companies are the most powerful companies in the world.
Yeah. Something that Dr. Todd and I are old enough to remember. Do you remember when pharmaceutical companies were not allowed to advertise on television? Mm-hmm. When we were kids? You never saw ads for pharmaceuticals. Right. That was not something that your average consumer needed to make, that was a doctor's choice in what to use to treat someone. And nowadays I don't have a television because I don't believe in it, but when I'm at work and the TV's on, it is staggering the number of ads I see for pharmaceuticals. I'm not exaggerating when I see sometimes every other commercial is for some sort of like for diabetes or heart disease or something. And it's like, man, how much money are these people making?
So it's like drugs being shown to you like crazy, media being sponsored by the drug companies, so they never report or say anything bad, and they'll promote it on their commercials.
Yeah.
And their stories collaborate and promote that mindset of, we're doomed. Oh my gosh, this new drug came out. It's going to save the world. And then you have fast food and crappy food everywhere. Even though there's the organic and the yoga and all the stuff that TT was talking about, there's also, it's very easy and it's less expensive to go eat at McDonald's.
Yeah.
You know, even now with inflation and with how things are, it's even more so cheaper to eat garbage fast food.
Yeah.
So what is it doing? It's pushing people further, even further into such an unhealthy lifestyle that we suffered with and faced well before Charlie 19er.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the worst part of the narrative that was pushed was that everyone is in danger. You know, that anyone could, especially the thing with the kids, when even from the beginning, we knew that kids were not seeing, for the most part, any serious negative outcomes, hardly at all. Because then that takes away from like, oh, I wonder if there's things that maybe I should lose some weight, or maybe I need to look at my blood sugar situation, or whatever it is.
Or
takes that
or
whatever it is, takes that conversation off the table. Oh, it could be anyone. We just need to wear our masks, get vaxxed, and we'll get through it. And yeah, that was sad to see, but it makes sense. But I think, do you think that there has been some good? Do you think some people through that process have kind of started to wake up? And
Oh yeah.
yeah. I don't think a majority of people, but I think there's been a few.
I think something good yet frustrating and tough not to fixate on every single day of my life is that this whole experience really took people, and the people that maybe you didn't realize that they thought a certain way, or they were so gullible or so naive or so programmable,
Yeah.
and it put them just on a silver platter and you could see them. It's the person driving alone in their car with a face mask on.
Yeah.
It's the person bragging on social media today still, I got my 4th booster, look at my Band-Aid on my arm. Aren't I so great with my virtue signaling?
Yeah.
Like, do you pay attention to anything? Like, you should be so embarrassed that you did that the first time around and you're still doing it on the 4th. Like, do you not pay attention to anything? There's no evidence on your side with this.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's really helped, I think, point out who you can count on and trust. And I mean, it's sad because on one end, you want to have this kumbaya moment, all people are, sacred and wonderful, and I want to protect everyone. The reality is some people have just wanted to take the blue pill and be trapped in the matrix and believe that, and I get it. That's their mentality, their mindset, their upbringing. It's definitely not a strength in my opinion. It's very much a weakness. And I feel like the other people who are on the fence, those are the people that really benefited the most from this. The people who were, hard workers, dedicated, doing their thing, but they're like, I'm too busy to worry about all of this stuff. I'm just going to do my thing. And now this is the slap in the face to say, I got to make some hard decisions and choices. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to change how I look at things, and I'm going to pay better attention.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people who were led in that direction.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know of personally a couple of people that I work with that initially kind of went along. They definitely felt the pressure of doing this or that they didn't want to do, and then went along with it, and then now regret it. And they are, I think, more going forward on their guard about, I'm not going to let this happen again. Because you have to remember, I remember watching some podcasts and stuff right when things started, and people were terrified. Like, there were people that thought, and I'm not exaggerating, we're all going to die. Like, this is going to, remember those weird videos coming out of China, people collapsing in the street? I think that there was a lot of people that thought it was going to sweep through the major cities and just kill, half the population or something. And I think when people are afraid, we don't always make the best decisions. And so I've tried to be a little forgiving about people who might have made some maybe not the best choices during
as far as at first.
Yeah, because that first few months, we were getting all sorts of weird conflicting information, and one day they'd say this and the next day say that, and so people got scared, and so I try to be sympathetic to that.
No, I didn't immediately when it came out said, oh my gosh, this is there's more behind it. When it first came out, I was like, okay, we don't know what this is. We got to take it seriously. We got to err on the side of caution.
Yeah.
Let's do everything that we can to protect each other and ourselves, right? But then once you started seeing these things not add up, and I guess it helps coming from a healthcare background and seeing patients, which on a side note is also annoying when you have like, you know, your other family members and people that have like zero health background. They've put like 1% effort into their own health or learning about diet or exercise or anything. And now they're this official of like, you're killing people and you're so, you need to do everything that big government tells you. How dare you be so reckless, right? That's one of the most annoying parts is like, this is my field. This is your field. We've been in the healthcare arena for, I'm going on 20 years now. You know, you've been in health and fitness longer than I've been a chiropractor. What, from when you started personal training?
About 2001. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So he's got me beat by a couple of years, but it's been in that mindset because you read articles, you want to understand human physiology. You know, this whole idea out there of just because I'm a doctor means I know more than you. No, especially nowadays with how much information's out there, there's people that just every day they are reading and they're learning and they're understanding and they are more well-versed than a graduated doctor who just follows along with what the pharmaceutical companies set up in their curriculum going through school. You know, unfortunately, a lot of those people are more brainwashed, and you have people in the general public that might have a basic background, but they have, you know, a brain between their ears and they've been reading and paying attention and they're saying this doesn't add up.
Yeah, and I think that the narrative that there was somehow consensus in healthcare was not true, and now we're seeing it more and more now that people are stepping forward. You know, researchers and practitioners saying, no, you know, I was trying to do this and I got basically shut down, alternative treatments or whatever it is, and I can tell you, like in my experience working with, you know, surgeons who are very intelligent and very skilled at what they do in the healthcare field. There were several of them. In fact, one of the smartest spinal surgeons that I've ever worked with didn't get vaccinated. And there were some that did. There were some that thought the mask mandate was a good idea. Some thought it was a waste of time. And I think they very quickly wanted to push things aside and like, you know, the government and mainstream media and social media, that there was like one consensus and one story, and that was it. And that's when I really started getting suspicious. Like anyone tells you that there's only one side to something, there never is.
Right. And then demonize you looking elsewhere, or just asking questions, or just asking for a debate.
For me, one of the most amazing things was how quickly this got politicized. Like and you know, remember, and I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist because I don't know if it was a coincidence. This was a very like tumultuous time. You know, being an election year, all the rioting and stuff that was going on, and
Summer of Love.
Sorry, the Summer of Love is what I meant to say. And this was all in the midst of that. And I think that just, maybe it's related, I don't know for sure, but it definitely made things more intense than it might have been in a more, I don't know, say 10 years earlier when everything was going swimmingly.
Or at least appeared to be more so, or we were less aware of what was going on behind the scenes. Because that's also how I look at it. I'm like, was I just not paying attention? Has this always been like this to an extent?
I remember, and I think I was a different person back then. I was in New York City when Barack Hussein Obama was elected president the first time. There were people cheering in the street. I will never forget it. Like everyone, and even I thought, I was like, you know what, maybe this will be something new. I mean, if nothing else, he's a younger guy, something a little different, very charismatic, seemed to care about people. And I think there was a general sense of maybe things will be better.
A great actor.
And I don't know if that was true.
Well, I mean, even back then, I remember I was in New Mexico, and the doctor I was working for, you know, he had a lot of negative things to say, and I never followed any politics, so I didn't care. And I was just like, why is he so negative on this guy? He seems like a nice guy, right?
I wasn't super political then.
Yeah, because on the surface, you were like, yeah, he seems like a nice guy.
Yeah.
But it's like, from a health standpoint, and interestingly, I think this goes full circle as far as what you were saying before. Like, do you think people have woken up? I think people have woken up on the political end, and the political end exposes so much. It crosses over into healthcare. It absolutely does. It crosses over into your health freedom, your rights, being mandated to do things. And then it crosses over into the education process of our children. What are they being taught on foods, on exercise, on like what's right, what's wrong?
Yeah.
And it ultimately, if you care about your health and you care about having a good life, you have to look at the political side of it. It's not like health and political are two separate things. COVID proved this completely overlaps. That's when I started paying attention. As soon as they were like, you have to get this experimental thing and you can't work freely. And if you're lucky, your business will be labeled an essential business. And like in Kentucky, for example, a friend of mine out there, I have a couple friends out there that are members of MoveNow. Their clinics got shut down. They couldn't practice because their governor or senator or whoever out there that made the call deemed chiropractic non-essential. So it's
did they shut down all the liquor stores?
No.
Interesting.
No. That's essential. Yeah, they kept the liquor stores open. They shut down churches, chiropractors, gyms, yoga studios, all the stuff that's, good for your physical and mental well-being. Yeah, let's just shut that down. Yeah. Pretty nuts. I know. Interesting, right?
Weird.
Yeah. Makes you wonder. Anyway, well, this will be our longest podcast episode that we've done in a while, but I think rightfully so. It earned it. We had TT here in the studio. Hopefully you enjoyed our conversation, got to know him a little bit better, and made you think about some of these topics if you haven't dove into these. But let's do a part 2 of this before you head back out to Minnesota.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, so we'll figure out how to take this a little further and talk about some other topic that's maybe more functional movement related solely.
Sure.
And, we can focus on that now that we have this as like an intro. But anyway, any closing thoughts or anything you want to say? You've said enough?
This was great.
All right. He said enough. Well, it was great to have you over here. Appreciate you coming over, and I'm sure we'll be working out tomorrow. Yeah. And I got to do legs. We call it legs.
Let's do it.
Which is legs. Are you ready to do legs again?
Yeah. Okay,
good. Because he went out of order. He did legs on Sunday, and then yesterday was chest, and that was my leg day, but whatever. Anyway. All right, cool. With that said, let's run the outro, check out these links, and reach out and let us know what you want to see covered if you have any feedback for us. So with that said, over and out. Want more MoveNow secrets? If so, then go get your copy of my best-selling book and watch my 30-minute behind-the-scenes MoveNow demo. My book is called Move Well Secrets, and you can get your free copy at book.movenowu.com. And watch the 30-minute demo of our exclusive doctor training portal at demo.movenowu.com. With these 2 resources, you'll find my top 22 secrets that we've used to build one of the smoothest running, results producing, and super profitable exercise departments within a chiropractic clinic in the entire profession.